Hello, my name is Christian and I'm recording this from my living room. It's very, very windy outside. I think a storm is about to arrive, so I might need to reshoot this if it gets too loud. This is my fourth video. I've been making different videos sharing my thoughts on different matters, and what I've been thinking about this week is charity, planning for the future and having a conventional life of security rather than precarity, and hope, I suppose, is what I've been thinking of. So I'm gonna share my thoughts on that, and I'll try to keep it concise. So lately, I've been watching this video series by a guy called Eugene Healy. And Eugene Healy, he's a big dude in marketing and whatnot, I think, and branding. I'm not sure what his technical name is, but he has popularized this idea called little treat culture. Have you heard about this? So the idea is that when people realize that they cannot save for the future, that when they pay off their education loans regularly, and then at the end of the year their loan is larger than when the year began, when they realize that they can't get homes and all of the conventional, traditional benchmarks of adulthood are no longer available to them, their horizon of possibilities narrows from thinking about big things to save for to instead little treats. So you might have experienced this at some point, depending on who you are, who your parents are, how old you are, where you live. You might have come to the conclusion that there is no point in me saving. And once you've realized that, within reason of course, once you realize there's no point for you saving for a mortgage and for a future and so on, light bulb might have clicked in your head that suddenly allowed you to buy more treats for yourself. You know, buy more pot plants, buy more clothes, buy more expensive coffees, with the reasoning being there's nothing to save for, and so I might as well enjoy myself now. Without a future, let us focus on the present. I've been interested in this for quite a while. When I was at university, the universities all started shifting to a form of marketing which you could describe as experience marketing. So education became an experience. Education was not a means of securing a future, but the experience on campus itself and the learning experience. In other words, the immediacy, the spontaneous experience was what they started selling to people. I know that doesn't seem like it's connected to little treat culture, but you can see it as a shift to the immediate, okay? It may well be that this was because universities were recognizing that they can no longer make the kinds of promises that previous generations could bank on, and so instead they changed tact from the future to the present. So I've actually experienced that click in my own mind around little treat culture. So I came to terms with the fact that the ladder of social mobility has been lifted up, and I've accepted that it's very unlikely that I'm ever going to have the affluence and fortune that my parents' generation had. I've come to terms with that. But I made sense of it in a rather different way to little treat culture. So I've got a new term, a new concept. I call it small kindness culture. What do I mean by that? So earlier this year, I had a conversation with my partner that I had been really, really frightened to have. I had actually been putting it off for a very long time. There are very few secrets in our relationship, and this was one of the big ones that I was very, very frightened of. So I give a lot of my money away. I'm pretty lucky to have a pretty good job. I often think it's unfair how much money I'll make in a day compared to how much money some of my friends make in a day. And I give a lot of my money away. And I was very scared that my partner was going to find out about this and be cross at me. And so one thing led to another, and all of a sudden it felt like I was keeping secrets, and I was afraid to tell her how much of my money I give away. When I eventually did have this chat with her, it was during a road trip when we were driving. You know, if you have to have a difficult conversation, sit side by side on a road trip. Great strategy. And when I told her, she didn't bat an eye. She immediately said, "That's fine. It's one of the reasons that I love you. And it's not like we can afford a house anyway." She immediately made sense of it and justified it using what Eugene Healy would describe as little treat culture. It's, yes, perhaps she would have been angry had we been saving for something, but because there's nothing really to save for, why not have small kindnesses instead? Why not help out other people and give a sizable amount of our income away? And it was such a relief to hear her say that. It was a massive relief. So just hearing this guy, Eugene Healy, talk about it as little treat culture, I wonder, is there anybody out there, any of you, who realizing that the future has been confiscated from you, the future has been sacrificed to the past, it's been sacrificed to pay off the debts of the past. Realizing this, did you find that you suddenly started engaging in more small kindnesses, in giving homeless people more money than perhaps you would have in the past? And I could give whatever those examples look like to you. Did you find that you became kinder and more generous when you realized the future had been confiscated from you? Because I did, and I recognize that now. And it's amazing that my partner spontaneously made sense of it that way. So there's a concept, small kindness culture, as a reaction to the current state of affairs. Now, I've been wondering about that because this next part is going to sound maybe a little bit contentious, but on the one hand, I'm very lucky to be friends with a great many generous people, but it's still the fact of the matter that most people I know actually do nothing. They do nothing. I think most people I know have made it very far in life, decades at a time, without actually doing anything really nice for another person, say for maybe like there's birthday presents and Christmas presents and maybe giving $5 a week to a charity. But in terms of actually getting out there and doing volunteering and so on, I think that's actually very rare. I think most people that I know do nothing. So I think doing something is actually out of the ordinary. Now I'm wondering if those people that do nothing, and a lot of time they'll justify it by saying, well, we're very busy, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to begin. They'll have all kinds of reasons and then they'll make it through life and basically have done nothing kind. I'm being hyperbolic here, but you see what I mean. Will those people start to now become kinder? It's so strange to think about. It's as the future becomes increasingly despairing, is there more hope for little kindnesses? People cannot plan for the future, and so they have the spontaneous random act of kindness, the experience of giving to people in the present. I've been wondering about that. And yeah, I'll be watching. I wonder if I'll encounter people that I know do nothing, and they'll start doing something, and down the track when I ask them about it or when we speak about it, they'll say, oh, you know, well, it's not like I can get a house anyway. I'd love it if you listened out to the people that you speak to see if anybody else says this, because I think it's actually probably a rather rare state of affairs, but that could just be my spotlight effect talking, my streetlight effect. I could just be biased towards my own generation. Yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about. The thing that actually, you might find this rather funny. You know that I like talking about the classics and mythology and whatnot. What kind of spurred me onto wanting to talk about this is I saw that picture, Saturn devouring his son by Goya. You know, Saturn, also known as Kronos, and he's holding this corpse and he's devouring it. And I didn't do this on purpose. Spontaneously, just what occurred into my mind was Boomer. You know, you've got Saturn there devouring the future and just Boomer, just written across Saturn's head. I like to say to people that as a sociologist, it's fun to predict what the next big ism is going to be. So when I was in high school, we learned about sexism, and then people learned about racism. I think the next ism that Australian high school kids are going to be learned about federally as curriculum is ageism. I'm willing to bet sociological dollars that ageism is going to be the big next ism. Okay, because I do see conflict, I do see prejudice. I mean, that thought that I had Saturn as boomer, devouring the future, devouring the children. That's a bigoted thought on my part. I recognize that. It was a spontaneous, bigoted thought. It's an ageist thought. The fact that it's possible, and I wouldn't have had that thought, 6 years ago, shows that something is shifting. Okay, so the final recognition is, here in Australia, we act like it's a state issue or a city issue or a national issue. It's not. It's a modern issue. We're having a cost of living and a rental and a living crisis, a shelter crisis, a home crisis. I was surprised by how many of the people that I knew, I say how many, I can think of 4 different people who, even though they had degrees and they had jobs, were suddenly facing homelessness. Okay, I know people who have degrees and have jobs and have spent stints living in their cars, homeless, actually homeless. A couple who have actually slept rough because they lost their car. I can think of a few of those people who, when they sought shelter from their parents used that as an opportunity to hold them over a barrel. They used their vulnerability as an opportunity to hold them over a barrel and get them to do what the boomer wanted of them. I know one person that this happened to. They were facing homelessness and their parents said, yeah, you can come back, you can come home, whatever that word means now, but you have to study. You have to return to university. And this person basically pointed to their already existing degree and their student debt and said, I'm already in debt, my debt is getting worse. And a degree clearly won't really do me any good. And the parents just wouldn't hear it. It was like, either study or you know what's going to happen. And by that, they seem to mean homelessness. I don't know the details of the story, it's just something I got told by somebody. And the parents probably thought, harsh but fair, we want what's best for you. But this guy on the receiving end, his response was, I can't believe you did that to me. That was brutal. And he articulated it, and I've since looked at people describing this online as one more reason to reject the judgment of these older people because they're just not with it. And each generation, of course, rejects their parents in different ways, but I think that was a seismic event for this gentleman, and probably for lots of different people. So the gap, the apprehension of the state of affairs is widening. And in that gap, thorns are growing, it seems. Okay, I'm approaching 13 minutes. That was hyperbolic, that was heavy, that was honest. That's what I've been thinking about lately. So yeah, to summarize, rather than little treat culture, which is you can't save for the future, so treat yourself in the present, I would like us to think about small kindness culture. You cannot save for the future, so how can you show small kindnesses with your fortune, good fortune, and money, whatever it be, even if it's only a little, in the present. Have you seen this? Have you experienced it? I'd love to hear. As always, I'm just sharing my thoughts. I'm not really interested in debating. I'm not intending to do this in order to have like long reams in comment sections or whatnot. Because this is all extremely half-baked. Don't eat these ideas, they'll give you salmonella. They're undercooked. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.